Here is our highly structured syllabus map for the day. First up, GS Paper 1 on river geopolitics. Then, GS Paper 2 covering the education crisis. Next, we hit GS Paper 3 for economy and ecology, followed by GS Paper 4 on ecological ethics, and we'll wrap the whole thing up with GS Paper 5 focusing on Assam integration.
All right, kicking things off with GS Paper 1, Geography and Environment, specifically looking at river geopolitics and what we're calling the Brahmaputra squeeze.
Today, we're impartially analyzing a really brilliant editorial on the looming infrastructure developments that are directly threatening our river systems. Take a look at how the Brahmaputra is literally caught in a geopolitical squeeze right now. Upstream, you have China engaged in massive megadam engineering in the Tibetan Autonomous Region. Meanwhile, downstream, Bangladesh is proposing the Padma Barrage. And this isn't small. It's a proposed 2-kilometer-long structure meant to store monsoon water and revive their smaller rivers. So our river systems are basically being manipulated unilaterally from both ends. But what are the actual on-the-ground consequences of all this engineering?
Well, grab your notepads because you'll want to take note of these specific cascading ecological threats for your mains answers. When you build massive structures on sediment-heavy rivers like the Brahmaputra and the Ganga, you inevitably trap that heavy sediment. And that loss of speed and energy in the river flow, it intensely aggravates localized flooding pressure. Furthermore, diverting this water can rapidly accelerate coastal salinization simply because the river loses the sheer strength needed to push back those salty tidal waters. Oh, and examiners absolutely love historical precedents, so for sure make sure you mention India's own Farakka Barrage, which notoriously failed to prevent silting at the Kolkata port. This is exactly the kind of evidence experts are using to warn against these unilateral developments.
Moving right along to GS Paper 2 on governance, focusing on the education crisis and its severe mental health toll.
13,044. I want you to mark this deeply sobering data point down for your governance answers. According to the NCRB, this is the staggering number of student suicides recorded in India in the year 2022 alone. This isn't just a sad statistic on a page, it is a massive, systemic crisis of human capital.
As the editorial so powerfully highlights, this tragic loss is a structural failure of institutional design. It's not about individual weakness. Our current education system basically operates like an industrial factory model, heavily engineered around competitive anxiety. It completely ignores the fluctuating cognitive and physiological needs of a growing child. And what does that lead to? It leads to what the author calls anticipatory grief and high-octane anxiety for both the students and their caregivers. So, what's the actual policy solution we can present in the exam?
To tackle this crisis, the author advocates for structurally integrating 4 ancient Gurukul principles. Notice I said structurally integrating, not just reviving them as some sort of cultural ornament. We desperately need sustained, individualized mentorship, knowledge pursued through experiential learning, deep ethical formation, and a genuine focus on community responsibility. And the best part? The data actually backs this up. Modern research shows that socio-emotional learning interventions built on these exact principles can improve academic performance by 11 percentile points. You absolutely must integrate these ancient pedagogical principles with modern policy in your governance answers. It's a game changer.
Okay, let's shift gears to GS Paper 3, Economy and Environment, covering both GDP growth and grassroots conservation.
Starting off at the macro level, the Prime Minister recently sat down with the Economic Advisory Council. Their primary agenda was deliberating on exactly how to maintain India's robust growth momentum, while also improving the ease of living and the ease of doing business, all amidst the ongoing conflict we're seeing in West Asia.
And the context driving that high-level meeting is this phenomenal number right here, 7.8%. Completely beating global forecasts, India's GDP growth accelerated to a very robust 7.8% in the January to March quarter. This massive expansion was backed by incredibly strong production momentum across the services, manufacturing, and construction sectors.
But, and there's always a but in economics, right? As future policymakers, you must look at the risk factors. Economists are warning that growth might actually temper down to around 6.6% for fiscal 2027. Why? Because we're facing specific headwinds. We're talking about a potential surge in crude oil prices towards $95 a barrel, forecasts of a below-normal monsoon, and generally softer global growth with supply chain disruptions. You have to intelligently weave these exact risk factors into your forward-looking economic answers to show the examiners you have a balanced, realistic perspective.
Now, bringing our focus back home to the local environment in Assam, the district administration down in Golpara has just launched the Clean Gingeram, Green Gingeram campaign. Aspirants, this is a beautiful, highly relevant example to quote in your exam. It proves that successful local models, like the total transformation of the Orpad Beal into a no-plastic zone, can absolutely be replicated to build structured waste management ecosystems elsewhere. It shows us that localized administrative initiatives can have a massive, scalable ecological impact.
This flows perfectly into GS Paper 4 Ethics, where we'll look at community-led ecological ethics in Manas.
Listen closely. If you encounter a question on grassroots conservation or environmental ethics, I want you to map out these exact chronological steps. An NGO called the Midway Journey didn't just walk in and impose a top-down solution. No. First, they drafted a detailed report on the waste actually entering the Manas National Park area. Then, they systematically convinced the locals, the tourist resorts, and even the forest department camps to halt the burning of plastic. Today, over 250 households and 100 forest camps are actively segregating their dry waste, which is then channelized into localized recycling loops. They literally forged a local circular economy from the ground up. This is a masterclass in how you write a high-scoring ethics case study.
Finally, we arrive at GS Paper 5, our custom paper on Assam, focusing on holistic integration for the mains.
To score the absolute top marks in the APSC Mains, you must synthesize your knowledge. It's like a giant puzzle. When dealing with Assam's sociocultural issues, you can integrate the historical brilliance of the home education system and contrast it directly with modern challenges, like preserving that exact culture through digital archives today. Similarly, when you're discussing ecology, contrast the massive, macro-level geopolitical threats to the Brahmaputra River that we talked about earlier against the micro-level triumphs, like that localized circular economy project in Manas. This multi-dimensional, big-picture thinking, that is exactly what gets you selected.
So, future administrators of Assam, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a crucial thought to ponder for your upcoming interview rounds. Whether it's integrating Gurukul principles into our broken education system, digitizing rich home history for cultural preservation, or fostering community-based conservation in places like Manas, how will you personally bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and modern policy in your district? Think about it. Formulate your answers, keep studying hard, and I will see you in our next explainer.